June is here. Time for everyone to shift from complaining about the cold weather of winter and the rain of spring to the unbearable summer heat. Time for the children to be unfortunately released from their prisons. Time for some sports to crown a new, or the same, champion, while others get into the swing of things, or enter their preparations with renewed vigor. But most importantly to some, it's time for the biggest gaming event of the year that only continues to grow in stature and popularity. It can also be an event of declining relevance and impact in the industry, depending on who you ask. Yes, everyone, it's time for E3 to strut back on stage, and once again, it's got a basket full of surprises and disappointments for all of you insatiable freaks. There's actually a pretty significant wrinkle in this year's showing, mainly due to a notable absentee giving E3 the cold shoulder. So before these company representatives deliver us with some heart stoppers and or secondhand embarrassments, let us take a look at who will actually be at gaming's biggest dick measuring contest, along with what you should and shouldn't expect. Let's see if I can temper those expectations and help you prepare for a worst possible scenario. Kinda like how YouTube is going to have to prepare itself for the upcoming flood of reaction videos and O-face thumbnails. Let's see who the first competitor is for the mythical E3 trophy. Wait, I hear you say with a sigh of disappointment. Isn't EA skipping out on this year's event? Well, yes and no. To the disappointment of insomniacs everywhere, EA will not be hosting their yearly sleep-inducing show. But don't you fear, EA will not stop until everyone and everything is fed up with them. Cause if you're starting your party plans for an EA-less E3, then I'm gonna give you some news that'll make you burn those plans. As EA will still be hosting their EA Play event in the same time and same place as last year. Only difference is, no conference and no E3 floor space. Technically making them a part of E3. Just like how EA Sports will technically have new games to show, to the surprise of your senile grandparents that don't even know what video games are. There are two lights in this soul-consuming vortex known as Electronic Arts, though. Light 1 is the indie games backed by EA that they show off every year, to try and convince us that the company isn't run by robots that use money as their fuel source. These have been the best parts of the show for the last few years. Now, if they're actually going to show a new indie, or just stream Madden and FIFA for days, is unknown. Hey, guess what? While I was making this video, EA actually posted their schedule for their live streams. Taking a look at it, there's 6 games, one I'm about to talk about, and then Apex Legends, Battlefield 5, FIFA 20, Madden 20, and The Sims 4. Jesus Christ, no wonder you didn't go to E3. That's just sad. But I can tell you something that has been confirmed for their streams. And that would be Light 2, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Finally, after the stellar reveal at last year's E3.
So the Star Wars name is Jedi Fallen Order.
Woo! So Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, so it kind of gives you some idea that you'll be playing a Jedi.
So does that mean I get to hold a lightsaber?
Yes.
We will finally get a first look at the game. Initial information on the game gives me a new hope after the travesty of Battlefront 2, but this is EA, so cautious optimism is probably the best way to go into this. If you don't care for EA's indies or Star Wars though, then there really isn't any good reason to watch these streams. You won't be missing much anyways. I miss when EA was actually good. Man, this feels really weird. Such an unfamiliar feeling. Am I actually looking forward to a Microsoft conference? I've never felt this way before. I'm not sure how to handle this. Why? Oh, you know what? I know why. Because this isn't gonna be the Microsoft conference. No. This is the third-party conference for those graphically intensive games. Capcom, From, Warner Brothers, Sega, Activision, Konami, 2K, THQ, etc. Have you been working on those multi-platform games that require a console with some power? Have you been scorned by somebody not showing up and leaving you with no major platform to show off those games at E3? Don't have your own conference like Square, Bethesda, EA, or Devolver? Worry not. Microsoft will gladly take you in and give you a place to debut those titles. Microsoft is definitely the most unpredictable contender in this year's backyard brouhaha, other than the required Forza announcement of course, but that's what makes them so intriguing this year. There is so much stuff that they could potentially announce here, and given how they've handled their recent E3 showings, you know, barely anyone talks, here's game after game after game after game after game after game, that hypes me up like you wouldn't believe. It's a shame that everything they'll show has to be stamped with the always present asterisk of not actually exclusive to the Xbox, but even that can't stop the lightning that they could bring to the table. There will most likely be Halo and Gears if that's your thing. We might even get a look at the new Xbox. But for me at least, things like Cyberpunk, Battletoads, and the backing of every other third-party studio without a conference is what has me excited. Please don't disappoint. I like this new optimistic feeling. Hey guys, do you remember Fallout 76? Of course you don't. I've never even heard of that game. And neither have you if you know what's good for you. It's funny what can happen in a year. Last time we were at E3, nobody could stop gushing about the presentation Bethesda put on. News outlets and fans were raving about how funny it was, along with their positive outlook on future releases from the studio. But once again, it just turns out that we all fell for Todd's sweet little lies. How does he keep getting away with it? Fallout 76 became the biggest disaster of 2018, Elder Scrolls Blades was a microtransaction haven, Rage 2 was... Not that any of those receptions stopped Bethesda from making loads of money, but I would like those heavily promoted games to actually be good along with making bank. Let's just hope that Wolfenstein and Doom don't follow this trend. But other than watching the spectacle of Todd trying to fight off boos and re-charming the audience once again with his fibbing, is there anything worth seeing here? Well, yeah, I did just say that Wolfenstein and Doom Eternal were still things, and they don't even look ruined yet, so that's nice. Let's not dance around this though. This conference is riding on the appearances of Skyrim Part 2 and Unspecific Space Game, and I'd be more than just a logo this time as well. Sure, Bethesda does have a good number of IPs under their belt that they could possibly pull from, but we all know what everyone's mostly looking forward to here. So, sorry to sour the mood of anyone looking forward to some Doom Eternal gameplay, or an announcement of a Call of Cthulhu or Wayne Gretzky hockey reboot, but if those two games don't show up this year, then it will be considered a disappointment by most. Oh, and Todd will still somehow make everyone fall in love with him again by the end of this. I don't know how, but the man does it every time without fail. Drugs. And maybe like one cool announcement. Should be funny, they've been pretty good since they started doing this thing. There will be no Skull and Bones. This conference is already a failure. Go back to the bakery, Ubi, and take your dancing furry friends with you. But seriously though, Ubisoft has always just been there. They don't hurt anybody, they don't announce anything exceptionally awful, but they don't blow you away either. They've even cut down on the cringe factor after benching Aisha Taylor.
Do you have a meme you wanna pitch?
And Just Dance can't bring that same teeth-clenching energy on its own, no matter how hard it tries to. I will give them this though, there's usually one or two things that they announce every year that makes their presentation worth watching. 2017 had Skull and Bones along with Beyond Good and Evil 2, 2018 had Star Fox featuring Starlink and Trials Rising. Ubisoft is in a slightly similar position to Microsoft this year with the whole unpredictability factor, but that's mostly due to 90% of last year's E3 showing now being released. Ubi's gonna have to show a few new games, or DLCs, to fill out the time. There's not gonna be any spook and scary this year, and that pretty much kills the conference for me. I was really looking forward to that. But they still do have BG and E2, that leaked Roller Champions game, and that interesting Pioneer project that's not dead anymore. Let's take a look inside and see what they've been doing to... oh, never mind. Interest is gone. There is a chance for an amazing show here. They have done it before, but don't put your money on it. An average show with a highlight or two is a better expectation to have. You can't be disappointed if you have zero expectations. Last year's showing was, awkward, to say the least. It was basically the sloppy second show, where Square displayed a bunch of stuff that we'd already seen before. Some of it was in the Microsoft conference, or it was just something that we already had a good amount of info on. Hopefully they learned their lesson this time and have stowed away a number of announcements just for themselves. And hopefully they turn out better than The Quiet Man. The Final Fantasy VII Remake being confirmed for not cancelled is a good start, and it makes for a good headliner for their show. And I really do want to see what that Platinum developed game was. Not really expecting much from this year's Square presentation itself, but it should at least be better than last year. Again, if they learn their lesson. One last thing, if there are any new games premiered here, expect I'd say 10-year development cycle. Gex 2029, baby. I can feel it. Sony, you've been weird these last couple months. Are you okay? I know that the air in California is weird, but I don't remember hearing about any mind-altering effects you get when you inhale the stuff. Yes, the news has been told time and time again at this point, but if you've had your head stuck in the ground and didn't hear, Sony is completely skipping this year's E3, and by that I mean completely. Sure, EA dropped their conference as well, but they are still doing their yearly activities, and they're only going to be like across the street from the main E3 building. Sony is totally skipping the event this year. They're not even going to have any presence whatsoever. They even threw some shade at the event as a parting shot, which is gonna make for a strange atmosphere when they show back up to E3 next year to show off the PS5. That PS5 is also the main reason Sony decided to stay home this year. I know that there have been statements from the company about their feelings on the current state of E3, along with their own events as a reason for no showing, but let's be real here. Sony is in a really weird spot right now. The PS5 isn't quite done enough to be shown yet, and with the company having many of their first-party studios working on games for said console, this makes most of the stuff that they're working on unpresentable at the moment. This decision to move most developing games to the PS5 has left the poor little PS4 with no future titles. The games that have been announced for the PS4 at the moment are probably all that it's getting. And even then, I wouldn't be surprised if games like The Last of Us 2 have been shifted over to the next-gen console. Last Guardian style. Also doesn't help that Sony has been, less than friendly with third-party and Japanese studios lately. You put all these ingredients together and it would culminate into an E3 where Sony would most likely get embarrassed, bar a situation where everyone else craps the bed beyond repair. I can only see a conference where Sony shows the exact same stuff as last year, and quickly getting dogpiled by the internet for not having a showing like Microsoft or Nintendo. So while it is saddening, or elating depending on which plastic box you own and how pathetic you are, I do think that Sony is making a good move here. This does put a lot of pressure on the launch of the PS5 though. That thing better have an all-star lineup of launch titles, or this big waiting game we're all playing is really gonna test the patience of their fan base. See you next year, I guess. Real shocker here, but Nintendo has the opportunity to take hold of the mythical E3 Cup with just a few announcements. We'll just have to wait and see if Big Red feels like dunking the ball in their court home or pissing themselves before running home. So it's situationally just like every other Nintendo E3 in the past 5 years. Last year might as well have been a Smash Direct. And I guess if you're gonna do that for one game, the series that's going to kill Sakurai isn't a bad pick. But now the game is out, so they're actually going to need to show a good number of games this time to fill out their Direct. Unless they decide to fill half the thing with Pokemon. Oh, they're doing a Pokemon-only Direct beforehand. I'm liking this timeline. New info on Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion 3, Link's Awakening Remake, Astral Chain, Fire Emblem GX, Cadence of Hyrule, Daemon X Machina. These aren't even new announcements, and you could satisfy people just with what I listed. Look, I could go on for a whole separate video on what Nintendo could and couldn't do this year, but there are a few main points of interest that I'm gonna keep an eye out for. First, the Smash character. There's gonna be a lot of people that are just watching this for the DLC announcement. You're probably gonna want to watch someone else for a specific analysis on that. I am keeping my fingers crossed for Doom Guy though. Second, and speaking of Smash DLC characters, is this mystifying relationship with Atlus and Nintendo going on right now. Shin Megami Tensei 5 was announced shortly after the Switch reveal and it has not been seen or heard of since. I'd like to get info on that, thanks. But the more pressing matter in my eyes is the Persona quandary. I feel like all these questions that have been surrounding the Switch and Persona 5 need to be answered in some form this year by either party, or else people are gonna throw a massive hissy fit and the internet already has enough of that. Third is whatever Retro was doing before they got handed the reins to Metroid Prime 4. Have a hard time believing they were just twiddling their thumbs for 5 years after Tropical Dawn. Lastly, and most interestingly, is the upcoming console revision. The Direct states that it's just going to be about games, so I wouldn't expect to hear anything about this there. It has the same chance of showing up in the Direct as anything Metroid related. And there are your main contenders for this year. Somebody is probably going to screw the pooch and somebody is probably going to tear the house down. But as long as we get a bunch of new interesting games out of this, then it's mission accomplished as far as I see it. I was thinking about ending this video with a prediction best to worst list of each conference. It would just be a blind guess though. Different games are going to excite different people anyways. There aren't too many people that would be excited by a Rune Factory E3 appearance as I, for example, but that's just how the gaming landscape works. E3 is a hell of a spectacle, and something that I greatly look forward to each year, for both the ups and the downs. Hopefully you guys get what you want, and good luck to all competitors this year. And at least make it funny if you're gonna fall on your face.
He's got it, Max. There it is! Gonna take it! Defeating Nick and
That was legit.
Well, that was an arduously long journey. For me at least. If it was for you, then I messed up somewhere. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, notification button. Yeah, that's exactly how you say it. Oh man, just trying to make this was like beating the clock. There were so many things going on. I'm looking at my news feed as I make this thing, and I just see, oh, this got leaked, and now this got leaked, and oh jeez. But again, if you can think of any way I could possibly improve these videos, please let me know, put it down in the comments. I'm trying to make this as pleasurable experience as I can for both you and me. But you guys go enjoy your E3, I'll do whatever I do, and you guys enjoy yourselves. Have a good day.